Alright, so we are going to cover the last important topic of our views. So this topic is related to view composer or view sharing. So what view composer or view sharing? So view composer is basically an idea or terminology. Like for example, if you have a multiple view or a multiple components, or maybe a single component that is displaying on multiple pages, so you can, instead of including or using that partials or components on every page, what you can do is basically you can define it in one section and then you can use it as a variable. So for example, we have this right sidebar here, so which is basically showing about archives and elsewhere. So these are the basically three things that it is showing on the right sidebar. So if I go to about us page, I still see this right sidebar, and if I go to my main page, so I see this right sidebar again as well. So let's talk about how we can convert this thing and we can also manage this thing from one place. Maybe you want to show the data from the database that is displaying up here, and you don't want to run the queries on every controller or and include in every controller or in every view. So you just want to manage it from one place. So there the view composer comes. So how we can define the view composer? What are view composers? So which I have already talked about. So how we can define view composers and how we can convert this thing into a variable? Let's see that. All right. So in order to use the view composer or view share, we need to first go into the app service provider. So in app service provider, we register all the things that should be rendered when the request is executed. All right, so when we go to the app service provider, we see only two functions. The first one is register, and then the second one is boot. So the register means like you can register or you can use the binding methods inside this register function. For example, you can bind the application, an instance to an application or a class to an application that the Laravel should automatically resolve. But we are not going to do with this anything with this register method. We need to go with the boot method. So first of all, let's talk about view share. So view share basically contain two things, the key and the value. All right, let's say for example, I want to share a view, so make sure you include the view class properly, and in this case we have to go with illuminate /view. So this will automatically include the class, and here we can use the share method. All right, so by using the share method we can define a key. For example, let's say users count for an example, and then we can define the value. So let's say I define the value of random from 1000 maybe to 9999. All right, so how we can now use this view share? Let's copy this variable. So this is kind of a variable that we are going to use in our entire application. So now if I copy that, and if I come to the home page, and let's say right below the left sidebar, or maybe let's open the right sidebar here. Now inside the right sidebar, I want to display the count share maybe above it after the about section. So what I will do is I will use the $ users underscore count, similarly which we have defined here. Now if I go to the page and reload, so we encountered an error which says illuminate view share does not exist. So the problem is that I have used the wrong class. So I need to include the proper class here. So in that case, this will be the view facade. So illuminate support view and facade. So this is which we are going to use. So now if I reload the page, I should see the user count. So there we go. We see 4516 users, just for an example, the random data we are showing. And now you can see every time it is changing. All right, now you can also this is displaying on this page, and if I go here and go to the about us page, I can also see this appearing here as well. So this is a basically cool feature, really cool feature. So if you want to display any certain thing, or you want to display account of users, or maybe how many archives are there, so there you can use the view share. Now the view composer is basically a concept where you want to render a view for an instance. In this case, what we have rendered is basically just a number. Now if I want to render an HTML, for that purpose I have to go for the view composer. All right, so let's see how we can deal with that. So now if I go for the composer, now I can use the view. So for every instance I have to go with the view facade composer here. All right, so the first thing it accepts is basically views. So on which pages I want to display this specific option, all right, or this specific HTML. I can provide, for example, let's say on home page, or maybe about us page, or I can also define this inside an array as well. So if I have multiple pages, I want to display it on multiple pages. For example, let's say home page, about us page, and maybe a contact us page. So I can define it in three different ways. The first way, I can use the array method where I want to display it on multiple pages. The second, if I can use, or I want to display it only a certain page, I can use maybe also an array or just a single page name. All right, and then I can also include the third method is, for example, let's say you have a prefix defined. Let's say, for example, you are displaying any certain kind of invoices, and the invoices URL is basically like invoice forward slash XYZ invoice, and anything that could be inside the invoices. For example, sales invoice, profit invoice, loss invoice. So you can use like invoices dot static. So this will be displayed on all these invoices pages. And if you want to display this globally, what you can do is basically you can use the static method. All right, so this is the first argument. This is how we can pass the view to all the files or to a specific files. Now this also accepts either a class or a callback function. All right, so we are now going to do with the callback function. So I'm going to use the function, and I'm going to close and open the brackets of the function. So this is basically called a callback function. Now inside this callback function, I can use the view. So I have the view available globally. All right, so by using this view, I can pass the data to my views, and this view variable is basically available to me globally. So what I can do is basically I can pass the data by using view with method, and the first thing I'm going to provide is the key here. So let's say, for example, right sidebar, right underscore sidebar. And then the second thing I want to render here is basically the view itself. So I am going to use the view function, not the variable. Just keep in mind that I am going to use the view function, not the variable. And inside here I want to include this right sidebar. So this is inside my underscore partials dot underscore right dash sidebar. All right, like so. Just to make sure I have write the correct spellings. All right, so now I have rendered a view. I have passed the view with the key and the view which I want to render. Now I can also pass a third variable or a data to the view as well. So obviously that we can do by using the compact method, any data that we have, but as of now we do not want to show any data. Or for example, I can also display maybe users equals to random 0 to 1000, just for an example. And I can also pass this variable to this view as well. So here I am going to use this users count. So let's say I want to use this users count. So I will display it here. Now this user count is not available inside this line of code. The reason is that because we have to use this user variable so that the inner function can use it. So all I can do is basically I need to use the use method and then users underscore count. Now if I go back, reload the page, now we come up with an error. So now it says like this view is not found. Maybe we have something that is missing, or I have something misspelled. Let me check that. All right, so there was a one mistake which I was doing is basically, so I was just pointing out one more thing is I was using this way home and views by using so. So what I was ending up here was this kind of error. So if I go, I would see like this right sidebar does not exist. And then if I go to here, I am seeing again that this right sidebar does not exist. But if I use the views dot and views.home and views.about, the reason is that because all my view files are exist inside this views directory. So if I go here and if I go to the resources, views, inside this views I have again this views.blade.php. That's why I was encountering an error. So now if I just use this one and I reload the page, I see we have displayed this right sidebar as an HTML. So all I can do is basically I can go back and use the double exclamation sign and just reload the page. Now I see this views here again on my home page and on my contact us page as well. Let me go to the contact us. There we go. So we do not have anything on contact us, but we do have things on about us page. Now if I want to display it everywhere, I can use views.static. All right, so in this way I do not need to define any specific views if I don't have to. If I reload, I should see still everything. Now this is 62. If I change, this is again now 58. Now the one more important thing is basically if I now change this right sidebar to, let's say for example, I remove everything, this one and this one, or maybe just the last thing, this elsewhere. If I reload, now the elsewhere is gone and it is gone from everywhere. All right, so this is gone from home page, this is gone from every page that we have shared the view with. So what we have learned are two things. First, the view share we can define the keys and the values, and then we also learned how we can define the view composer. So view composer accepts the views, and your views should be the view files. All right, it should not be the URL, or it should not be the route web names. All right, it should be the view files, which I was making a mistake, and I just want to clear that out, that all my view files exist inside the views dot static. All right, so that's about it, and I will see you in an upcoming video with a new module.